Good afternoon and welcome. It's the Joel Natale show here. 406, we're live from our Kingdom Financial Group studio at 5th and State, also live on Facebook and on YouTube. And we want to welcome in the Erie County Executive, Brenton Davis, for your August meeting. Can you believe that we're in the final month of summer, basically, Brent? And, you know...
It's prime time.
It is prime. These are the dog days, right?
I mean, but if you heat with wood or, you work on a farm or live on a farm, I mean, now you're starting to look towards the harvest and squirreling away your firewood. So, I mean, Erie people, we're getting ready for winter in August. Dare I say the dirty word, but.
Right. So it's been a busy summer for you. I want to start with your announcement yesterday. Yeah. In fact, you had a couple announcements yesterday.
We've been busy. I mean, unfortunately, you can only get the press to cover one thing a day, and we keep them running, and sometimes you make it, sometimes you don't.
The next shiny thing, boom,
But, it's like progress doesn't stop because you can't sit there and, take a bow in the media. It's not always about the media coverage.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, even in my own circles are like, man, you got to really let the media keep up and tell the story. But, like, look... Mm-hmm. I've never been focused on the campaigns. I've never been focused on, the messaging. I guess that makes me a terrible politician. But in terms of servant leadership, I mean, you just get stuff done. Let's get to work. I mean, that's what we live by. That's what I drive my administration to do. And, we're not sitting around waiting for headlines, progress.
This allied health facility at the Erie County Community College, over $5 million is going to be invested. Tell us about it. What are some of the origins? I mean, it's obviously, you have the three hospitals that are saying this is something that we need in that the college can help us with and provide some real educational opportunities for folks.
Yes. I mean, how that got started was real early in my term. Just obviously COVID was a huge telling tale of not having the healthcare folks and, the vacant jobs and the burnout and, folks doing contracted stuff and losing staffing. And, as I got to know each one of these hospitals, the CEOs and the different folks doing the work, it was clear that each one of them was trying to figure out what is the key to solving their workforce issue. And they all had their own approach. And I said, look, like, I kind of sat back and I said, this just doesn't make sense. You're each trying to create a schoolhouse. You're each trying to do these things. And then what is that inherent investment per each one? And what a waste of resources that is, right, for our health systems. Not just time and money. They each got to hire instructors, build a schoolhouse, build the stuff out. And it definitely wouldn't have been at the level to which we're doing it. So I just said, hey, I know the first meeting was a little awkward in my office because, I mean, you got three competitors that have had some beef over the years between them and, a little bit of animosity or whatever. But, that's the nature of competition. But, when I brought them there, they had no idea what we're even going to talk about. I just said, hey, can you come for a meeting? And I just didn't tell the other ones that the other two would be there. And... it was kind of awkward.
That is really awkward.
You know what I mean? They walked in and they're like, "Oh, Allegheny, UPMC, LECOM, good to see you." But no, they were very cordial. I mean, very polite. I mean, it isn't like crazy animus. Not like ice cream and pizza tales or anything. But I mean, the crazy part about it, is when we sat down, I said, "Look, we've got this ARPA money. We need to do something for the healthcare workforce." And I said, this is what I'm going to pitch to you. You each have told me in some degree, shape, or fashion that you're going to do some kind of workforce program, some kind of school. You're already doing it in some capacities. And I said, look, what if the county, the taxpayers put up $2 million of our ARPA money? Mm. And I say, but the commitment that I want from you is that the money that you already have, slated for investment, you're not able to pull those poker chips off the table. I want the same monetary investment that you were going to do on your own, but now we're going to do it collectively. And you could tell like they were into that. And I said, but here's the catch. In order for us to be the fourth partner, I was like, I want you to guarantee a few things. One, that you're going to cover the tuition for these students so like it doesn't fall on the taxpayer.
Yeah.
I said, two, the money that you're going to use and you're going to save in brick and mortar, I want you to pay these students a livable wage. So now no one has an excuse of, oh, I can't go get an education, because now your tuition's covered and you're going to work immediately to learn. And the third, you guarantee them a job. If they pass, the accreditation, the degree program, you're sponsoring these students. So they have these scholarships, they have this funding, and they've guaranteed that. Looking at the numbers for every graduating class that we have, for that $2 million investment, for every single graduating class that we have, that's an $8 million return to the taxpayers of Erie County from each of these graduating classes of like 20, 25 people.
Those are the cohorts. It'd be about 20 or 25.
Each of the cohorts would be about $8 million return in terms of their taxation and what they'd pay back and things of that nature. And the $2 million.
You think about the families that get transformed with that livable wage in a job that we learned long ago that these are skill sets that you could stack on them. So if you're really sharp, you might be able to take that nurse assistant
and become an RN.
Become an RN.
An LPN, RN, PA, whatever it is. I mean, that's really truly what we're aiming at here. And this is why we did the wall breaking ceremony. Instead of a groundbreaking ceremony, we knocked down walls with sledgehammers. And, to me, that was very symbolic because we're breaking down barriers for people that don't normally have the opportunities. It's your lower income folks, it's your unemployed, your underemployed, it's your minority folks, your rural poor. It's the folks that generationally haven't had particular advantages, or maybe it's a single parent or a single income family. It says, I can't stop doing this job for $12 an hour to go to the community college, even for free, because I'm going backwards. Well, here this costs the taxpayers absolutely nothing, and we've already got cohorts moving just because this facility is being built. We're doing it in alternate settings, and the awesome part about it is this isn't even started, and we've already got our satellite location bought up in Corey down at the old LTT welding building that we're going to double down on this allied health with the health systems, with other counties, Warren Hospital, and these other folks. And teach machining, teach welding, teach the allied health, have flexible classrooms for EMTs and paramedic school. Have it all down there. We're going to take the instruction and the instructors to the students instead of saying, well, hey, we're going to build this community college in Villa Maria, clear in the middle of Mill Creek, and we're going to expect some student to schlep up from Union City or Corey. It's easier to get a teacher, an instructor, to just make the drive down than try to figure out how do you move 25 students or 20 students per cohort. So we're not even done with that. So it's part of a larger vision on how do we keep our health system strong, not only here in Erie, but LECOM's places throughout the county, the rural medicine, and down into Corey at the hospital there, and partnerships with Warren County and Crawford County commissioners, because obviously they've got some weaknesses. So looking at potential for other investment, or employing other county residents here in Erie to really strengthen our healthcare fields.
When you let's broaden it out beyond the healthcare fields. The EC3 had another announcement today. They're talking about dual enrollment welding. And again, my understanding is that the place like Don John will take any welder that they can get. There's just wide open.
So that's why we work so hard. A couple 2.5 years ago, we went and bought $750,000. That's yet another American Rescue Plan investment that we've made. We bought these welders. We've made this investment. We're partnering with the NPRC because they have the machines already. It's being able to really look at the system that couldn't work together. There's a lot of critics that say oh, you're not working with anybody. There's evidence of us working with everybody. That's at least relevant and brings something to the table. So having all these partnerships and looking at the resources that we have and just coming up with the uncommon solution that really streamlines it, but most importantly, that takes that liability off the backs of the taxpayers. I was a big critic of the community college. Hell, I spent $10,000 suing, and just so the taxpayers had a voice to say, hey, wait a minute. Before you pile more taxes on my grandmother, my great aunt, my mom, my dad, folks that are retired that have already done what they needed to do. They paid for their kids' college. They paid for their own student loans. Now you're going to pile a couple million more dollars worth of debt on their back. So, we can have a community college, but it can't be Edinburgh 2.0. It's got to be a lean, mean workforce development machine, and that's what we're making it. And then finding the public-private partnerships that need the workers that are willing to pay for the training. Folks like Corey Manufacturing, Frelo Industries, Erie's Magnetics, the shipyard, and say, look, if you want these students, you're going to support the cost of this training. Or, like you said, taking somebody that's maybe a welder's helper or laborer in the shipyard, preparing plates and torches and welders and plasma cutters, that has a elementary understanding, and turning them into that novice or journeyman welder that they need. And that's all part of the upward economic mobility strategy that we have, is being able to elevate the folks that we have to making a better living. And that in itself transforms generations. If you stop poverty in its tracks now, that welder, that nurse, or that CNA that becomes an LPN, that becomes an RN, that becomes a physician's assistant, well, now they're making 150, 180,000, whatever they're making a year. Maybe they go to LECOM and become a doctor. Whatever it is, they're making that 6-figure plus income that normally that person, their lifelong trajectory might have been lifelong poverty. And we've never had these opportunities. So that press conference I held yesterday was really heavy on doubling down on opportunities. And it's also accountability, because opportunity without accountability gets you nowhere. If you squander it, there's no result.
There's it's fascinating to think of what could happen with a 21st century educated workforce. And that's what we're all after, and to kind of capture the imaginations of the young ones, for sure. We're talking to the county executive here, Brenton Davis. We've got to take a break. It is 4:18. It's Talk Erie and the Joel Natale Show.